We shared a bowl of sugar and some shots of brown liquor. Played with my shotguns. Field dressed a cat.
Tis the season, everybody, and welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they truly hold up. I'm held up right here with two fantastic Christmas individuals themselves, Andrew and Kyle.
Ho, 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 feeling extra jolly today. Ain't that right, Kai Kai?
Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that.
I'll do it as many times as I want to.
You won't be able to when I'm through with you.
Okay.
So
threaten me with a good time.
As audio listeners, Andrew just grabbed Kyle in the no-no zone.
It's not true. I just gave him a little smack on the abdomen. Way to embellish and lie there, Chase. You're setting a great example for all the children listening.
There are no children listening. Hopefully.
You're right.
If you're a child,
turn it off.
But he did try to touch my nethers.
It's false accusations here.
I was hoping that he would have got a little bit lower because it would have tickled my fancy, so to speak. But
yeah, they're really putting me in an awkward...
You both know we do not have the budget for an HR department, so we cannot go down this road.
Well,
HR?
Don't lie. That's all I got to say.
Well, speaking of HR nightmares, we watched The Santa Claus.
We did.
Was that the best segue ever?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
it wasn't.
It wasn't at all because I don't really know what HR he would run into besides maybe...
it's the mid-'90s, so there wasn't much of an HR
Yeah, there wasn't.
anyways.
They didn't care about the average employee and how you treated people.
Well, speaking of treating people, we watched the Santa Claus
There
with
it
Tim
is.
Allen. Before we dive in, Kyle, I want you to tell me how you're feeling in the form of a Christmas gift.
Christmas gift?
Could be anything.
Socks.
Could be, yeah.
There it is. That's all you need to say.
The most detailed response we've ever gotten from you.
Yeah, but it says a lot. Socks
Yeah.
say a whole hell of a lot.
I showed up for this.
Are they fun socks? Or?
No, fuck no.
They're just like
they're just
like
utility
white
socks.
white
Yes.
socks, tube socks.
It serves a purpose. It's like if communism could give a fucking Christmas gift. It serves a purpose for all. All can use it.
It's like a $5 pack of 15 socks you get from Walmart or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I can feel it. So the energy is just exuding.
Well, speaking of communism, we watched the Santa Claus.
I mean, everybody gets something. Right?
Everybody gets something, right?
Yeah.
I think we all remember this one from when we were kids. Hey, Andrew, what year was this?
94 is when it came out.
94, yeah. So I was 3 years old. Kyle, I think you were about the same
4.
age. You were 4. Okay. Well, Andrew, you
yourself.
were like what?
2. I was
Okay.
2, but
He vividly remembers this, though.
Like
I mean, I
infant
do,
child.
but not in 94.
Yeah, you do.
I watched it when I was like, maybe 4 years old, 96 or 5 and 97, but vividly remember it watching it.
Andrew, let's start with you then. What do you remember other than watching it later on because you were a fetus when it came out?
I remember loving it as a kid. Like, this was like my first movie that exposed or highlighted what, the North Pole looked like and like how Santa would fit into your actual everyday reality. I loved it. I have strong, vivid memories of enjoying this movie, watching it every year, either, the day before Christmas or like the week of. It was, if I created a top 5 of favorite childhood Christmas movies, this would be on that list without a doubt.
Okay. Kyle, what about you? What
I
do
don't
you
remember this movie whatsoever until I just watched it. I remember, I think I saw it on TV once when I was like maybe 8 or 9, maybe. So like, the only things I remember was like, I was fascinated with his workshop, and I was like, there's no fucking Nintendos here, so this isn't real. It was a little jarring to see that man gain that much weight in that short of a time, and it's still jarring today when I watched it today. Very jarring. But I don't really have a very vivid memory of it. Just some bits and pieces here and there.
I remember a lot about this movie. My dad, this is one of his Christmas favorites, so we watched it a lot with him. I remember watching it as a kid, but I don't remember having any strong reactions one way or another. I think I liked it enough as a kid to watch it when it came on, but it wasn't like, oh, I have to see the Santa Claus. I have to watch the Santa Claus during my Christmas break. I usually ended up watching Jingle All the Way or The Grinch. Those were the two that I remember the most.
I've seen this movie. I don't have enough fingers and toes to count how many times I've seen this fucking movie.
11?
Sure. No, it would be...
His parents don't want to talk about the nuclear accident he
it would
lived
be
through.
2021 because I said fingers and toes, so... Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me too. Chase, that makes sense to you?
No, not at all.
Okay.
We can't talk about the Santa Claus without living in that time period of Tim Allen too.
Oh, that was his peak.
His heyday, right?
Yeah,
this
it was his heyday. He
This was
did-
his first feature film, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Oh, Toy Story? Was Toy
Toy
Story?
Story was 96, so yeah, this
Yeah.
was
This was
before
before
Toy
that, yeah.
Story.
Yeah.
And then Home
Was this
Improvement.
yeah, it was after that.
I thought it was before.
Was it before?
No, I thought Home Improvement was before, I should say.
Home Improvement was popular at the time, so I
Yes.
think that's how he got the role. In the
Yeah,
Santa
Home
Claus.
Improvement came out in 91, so this was 3 years into it.
Okay.
And that was very popular when it came out, I would
Yeah.
imagine. So 3 years in, you're like, oh, this guy, he's gonna star in a blockbuster feature family holiday film. Perfect. He's the guy for it. He fits that stereotype.
Yeah.
Clean,
Are
I mean, we can go into his
we
past.
Are we going to
but-
gloss into that, or are we just?
No,
gonna,
we should talk about it.
No, should we?
Yeah, we absolutely should.
For anybody who doesn't know, Tim Allen was arrested on cocaine charges.
And like trafficking
Yeah,
charges.
it
Like he
was-
was
Trafficking cocaine.
large amounts of cocaine and other drugs, narcotics in the 70s and 80s.
Good for him.
Yeah.
He knew what he
In
wanted.
Michigan, I'm pretty sure he worked with,
Well, I-75. What are you gonna do?
I don't know if it was the cartel, but he was a big mover, and he probably
Yeah.
should have seen decades worth of jail time. But do you remember how he got out?
Don't know. I was never the biggest Tim Allen fan.
I don't love Tim Allen. I don't put him on some pedestal. He's he's better than Kevin James, but he has definite
He's
similarities.
Kevin James is the lowest totem pole.
No,
for
but
most things
they try.
He's much better than them.
He's far better than him. But I feel like there are some parallels there in terms of the sitcoms they've
Yeah.
done and just their
The
style of
repeat
humor.
movies. and,
Yes.
I think Kevin James' style of humor is much more sophomoric and fucking inane,
Yeah.
dumb bullshit.
Kevin James
But-
is like a G-rated Chris Farley to me.
Yeah,
like
he's just
Maybe is there a lower level than G? Is there something that's even-
TVG.
Yeah.
special ed.
Because
Chris
Tim
Farley.
Allen actually has some decent stand-up. I don't know if you've ever watched it, but he has some solid stand-up that
Yeah.
earned him some real respect in the comedy ranks.
He was a staple of movies in our childhood.
For sure.
It's very hard to think about our childhood without thinking about Tim Allen.
Yeah, I mean, Buzz Lightyear, how can you not think of
Yeah.
Buzz Lightyear and think fondly?
Yeah. So what do you guys remember about Home Improvement?
It was on
was
Nick at
funny.
Night. That was really about
It's a
it.
funny show. Remember Wilson, his neighbor, never showed his face.
That was all I remember is
Probably 'cause he was-
Jonathan Taylor Thomas was a
Yeah.
big star. I remember all the girls at school.
Who was his sidekick? The guy who ran the shop with him or whatever.
Al. Was it Al?
We should know who that is.
Yeah,
but-
that guy.
Richard Karn. Al Borland.
Yeah.
Richard Karn. That was who I was going for.
And he was in a lot of different things, but always as a side character. You couldn't watch a movie in the 90s, or at least a comedy in the 90s, without seeing his face somewhere in
Yeah.
it.
Retired peacefully.
Yeah. I think that about wraps it up on the kid side of things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say this, though. Do you know who they wanted instead of
No.
Tim Allen?
Who?
Nick Cage.
Can you imagine Nick Cage as
That'd be
Santa
great.
Claus?
I would love
Wait,
that.
Nick Cannon?
It was not Nick Cannon either.
11-year-old Nick
I-
Cannon.
Yeah.
Hey, he's old.
It was Tom Hanks.
Oh, that tracks.
They were
That
they were
makes
in talks
perfect
with Tom
sense.
Hanks to do this role, and I think Tom Hanks would have been okay.
Yeah. I think Tim Allen's got a little more bitiness to him.
I'd like to swap out Tim Allen in Saving Private Ryan and Tom Hanks in this movie and see how well they would have done.
That would have changed the course of history, I feel.
Yeah.
Hey, how about Judge Reinhold making a strong
Good
appearance?
old Judge.
Oh,
Fucking prick.
He
he
is.
plays the soft prick very well in this movie.
Him and his lame-ass sweaters.
Well, I think it's time to jump into some numbers. Andrew, can you tell us how this movie did?
Yeah, healthy budget of $22 million.
That's pretty good.
Ooh.
And then domestic opening, they got $19.3 million of that back.
Nice.
And then domestic altogether, $145 million and some change. International, $45 million. So worldwide, almost $200 million in
That's
total.
crazy.
That's really fucking.
For a Christmas movie, that has to be one of the highest grossing Christmas movies.
Yeah,
of all time.
I wasn't surprised because, like I said, I feel like this is a successful holiday film. But 190 something million in change with
Yeah.
only 22 million,
Like a fifth of $1
lost.
billion. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and they also, I was reading that they capitalized on Tim Allen's popularity, and
Yeah.
that really drove a lot of people to theaters. And what was his name? Eisner, who was the CEO of Disney,
Yeah,
was
Michael Eisner.
really pushing for Tim Allen to be in this. In fact, Eisner wanted to cut a lot of this movie to remove other characters that weren't Tim Allen so they can focus on him.
Oh,
And
what
so-
a visionary.
Yeah, and I think that really shows in this movie, which, like I said, we'll get into when we start deep diving. Which, are we ready?
I think so. Let's get into
Kyle,
it.
are you ready?
Hold my hand, Kyle. Hold my hand. There it is. Nice, soft
We've completed
grasp.
a physical pact with each other.
Yes, we
a
have.
covenant, one would say.
Now we are one together.
They're one together now.
Yep. Well, let's proceed.
Should we spit?
Yeah. There we go.
Now that we have that, Kyle, where do we start with this movie?
A holiday party.
Like what movie beforehand?
Oh my God! It's like we're watching Jingle All
Die
the Way.
Hard. Oh
again.
wait, because that also is takes place in the fucking.
And they're having a holiday party on Christmas Eve, of course.
That's really dumb, but whatever. I
Hey.
feel like nowadays everybody be gone.
Corporate America matters. Don't
It does
forget
matter.
it.
Yeah,
Well, you know it
capitalism.
doesn't matter. Clearly, as we go through this scene, and we see is nobody's families matter because they're all there. And Tim Allen,
Do you like the joke that he made? He was like, Jack's family's not here because his secretary's sitting on his wife.
What is it? The head of the department, the sales department goes, "Oh, we have two special people to thank for our what is it? What's the name of the
Something
doll?
Dolly. Do it
all
Dolly.
So you have to burp her, change her, take her for a walk, put her in her crate.
Part. I forgot that Tim Allen was like a creative in a toy industry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
How
my
fitting.
God.
Good
like,
writing.
Great writing. So lazy. And they have that Do It All Dolly doll.
Yeah, and they record sales that year because of Tim Allen and his counterpart. And she comes up, a black woman comes up, starts talking, and
just
within a sentence
Cuts her
just
off.
cuts her
Just
off.
grabs the mic.
And I'm like, yeah, this is definitely the '90s right here. And he just, and he makes that funny little quip about, well, our families matter, but Johnson's family's not here because his secretary sitting in his lap. Ha ha. Little inappropriate stuff right there.
Yeah, well, again, these are 90s movies. They had to put the adult jokes in there because adults are dragged to the movie theaters to
They
see
are.
these with their kids, mainly me and you. But
But I will say, they abruptly changed scenes real quick to him driving home in his, what is that, a 1993 Ford Taurus, 1995 Ford Taurus.
It was something.
It was, yeah, and
it
he's
was
on the-
odd placed for a guy that makes that much money to be driving.
Also,
Taurus.
his like townhome. I was expecting just like a house by
Yeah.
himself, but I mean, I guess
I don't know if it was a townhome. I think it looked. I thought the
It
same
was-
thing. I thought it looked like a townhome, but then like
They
it was just
were-
a weirdly designed home. I think.
No, I think because there were other doors there out front. Like they were, like four little
I'm
units.
telling you, it's just like the Winchester Mansion. He had built onto that thing.
Sure.
Have you ever
Yeah.
been to the Winchester Mansion?
No.
It's fucking weird.
I want to go. I think it'd be
Where
fun.
the fuck's
it's
the
weird. It
Winchester
makes
Mansion?
me. It's in
California.
California.
Oh,
San
that's
Francisco.
okay. I know what you're talking about now.
It's
yeah.
very haunted.
Yeah, the haunted, yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know about that, but it definitely has a
Supposedly.
weird feeling when you go in there. It's definitely like,
Because she
Ugh.
she thought she was haunted. She just kept building
kept on building-
doorways to nowhere.
yeah, she
and-
kept on building rooms and rooms and rooms and rooms and rooms, and like you will get lost in there if somebody is not there to help you.
Well,
figure it
anyways,
out.
he lives in the Winchester Mansion. This takes
Right.
place in San Francisco.
Yeah.
There's
a,
snow
a
on
baby
the ground.
baby version
Yeah.
of the Winchester Mansion.
but no though.
he leaves the little work function because he's late to spend Christmas Eve with his son because he's divorced and he's
Naturally
driving.
up, and then almost like another movie with Arnold, but he didn't quite get to that point.
There was no traffic though. There wasn't in Arnold's case. There was
but
traffic.
he was
It
still
was.
lying.
He was
about it.
lying and he was like yelling at people while calling like on the
Hey,
phone.
what are you doing? That wasn't very ladylike.
Ladylike.
Like,
well, the expressway is fucking
Empty.
empty.
Yeah. So he's
Which is kind of funny.
it is funny. I thought it was a funny.
and what they're trying to set up is that he's just not a very good dad. Womp,
He's a
womp,
distant
womp.
father who
Yeah.
cares more about his career, and there's a reason that his wife divorced him.
And we touched on this with Jingle All the Way. It seems like a lot of these movies, especially the Christmas movies, they have to have some sort of distant father or someone who is
They got to show that he's human, you know what I
right.
mean?
Like
Yeah.
these are complete.
'Cause we've all been there.
Yeah, we all had
we've all had a
fathers like
family.
that.
We've all had a family that we just don't give a fuck about. So he gets home and his estranged wife, I guess his divorced wife. They're
Divorced
divorced.
wife.
They're
They're not
divorced.
estranged, yeah.
And,
She's with Neil now.
Yeah, she's with
Neil, Dr. Neil
We get a
Miller.
lot of exposition very quickly in the first 5 minutes, and that they're divorced. He's getting the kid for this, and we don't like Neil because Neil's a fucking prick.
Yeah, and he's the new stepdad who's trying to take, Scott Calvin's place. That's his name, by the way.
Calvin.
Scott Calvin.
Scott Calvin.
C initials, SC. Keep that in mind. And Neil's very like, we gotta go. You can't go in. You can't go in. He's like tapping his wrist like he has a fucking watch on.
I think I even yelled at the TV. I was like, "Fuck off, Neil. That's not your kid."
Yeah, let your ex-wife go in and talk to her ex-husband to discuss the holidays and when the kid's gonna get picked up tomorrow. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they go inside and they start fucking about, talking about like the kid's like, I don't want. What's the kid's name? Charlie. Charlie's like, I don't want to stay here, Mom. I don't want. Can I go? Will you pick me up early? Dad's the fucking worst. And then we just roll right into he doesn't know how to cook. He's trying to cook something for his kid, and he makes this smorgasbord of burnt
I
shit.
thought this was funny. He was clearly trying to cook a turkey. He opens up the cookbook. He's like, 4 hours? It's already dark outside. Are they going to be eating at like midnight?
It's got to be like 7:30.
7:30.
Well,
maybe even later.
They were up way north, though. I think they were close to Chicago or something.
It was Chicago, so it probably was dark by like 5 or 4:30.
This was Chicago.
Yeah.
For later shots.
Then it was four. There was like
Land
4
of
o'clock.
Lincoln,
So
baby.
about eating around 8:30 sounds about right.
But this
that kid would be asleep.
This was also filmed in Toronto during the summer.
But he ends up burning the turkey.
But before that,
sorry.
we have to give context to the scene. So him and his ex-wife are getting into a fight while Charlie's there. They're talking about Charlie has found out that Santa doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Some kid at school ruined it for him, and then Neil and
was
them
doubled
told
down on
her
that.
that
It was like
Santa's more of an idea. He's more of a spirit.
Yeah.
just
feeling.
like Neil.
And then like Neil's like, yeah, we don't want to break his sense of reality. And this kid's like 6 years old.
Yeah, no, we don't want him to have a false. He said we don't have him to have a false sense of reality. And he goes, Tim Allen's like, well, God forbid the kid have some imagination. Like that would be the worst thing in the world.
They're trying to set up that Tim Allen's character Scott is a piece of shit father.
And he doesn't seem like the best father, but he doesn't seem like the worst person in the world.
He cares about his kid.
Yeah.
And he wants his kid to have a childhood.
Yeah, and so now I'm like, I know what they're trying to do, but I have the reverse feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the mom and the stepdad, especially. I think they're like
helicopter parents.
they're like
Goody
Californian
two-shoes.
parents,
Exactly.
But they're.
He needs to be on a vegan diet.
Yeah, they're trying so hard to make this kid into an adult at the age of 6
Because, Neil's a psychiatrist.
and Scott is like, no, he needs to have a childhood. He needs
a fucking
to
kid.
have fun. And they're getting mad that Scott's still talking about Santa and pushing that imagination along. But, going forward, he burns the turkey. And where do they end up, Andrew?
They tried to go to some really nice Italian restaurant, but they're closed on Christmas Eve, so they end up going to fucking Denny's.
Denny's.
And there's a nice little joke in there. He's like, it's an
Grand
American
slam.
institution, and it just shows a bunch of Japanese businessmen sitting around having a good fucking time.
I thought that was very.
I thought it was
funny.
hilarious.
Really funny. And then they're out of everything.
Oh
at
my
this
God.
They don't have the eggnog.
anything.
They don't have the pie.
They don't have chocolate milk for the
chocolate
kid.
milk.
We're out. Like, what the fuck do you have?
So 6-year-old Charlie's going to be getting a Denny's Grand Slam for his Christmas
think they
Eve.
were out.
He's gonna
They're
be
probably
getting
out of that shit.
can of
too.
Alpo for his fucking Christmas Eve dinner.
And that waitress, she was not having her job that day.
Who would? Are you fucking kidding
Why do you
me?
want to be fucking serving at a Denny's on Christmas Eve? Who would?
On Eve, not even the day, just Eve.
Yeah.
And also it's funny too that they're under a time crunch too, because the mom said that she was going to come pick Charlie up at sunrise the next day. So it's like, why even get visitation rights
Yeah,
at this
at
point?
this
You have him for 8 hours.
So we'll flip flop on that pretty quick. But essentially, they go home after that, and they have this whole thing about he's reading them the night before Christmas, and he's asleep, and he's not asleep, and he's going, Daddy, what about this? Daddy, what about this?
Dad,
What
what's a clatter?
What's a clatter?
He said, "What's a ladder?" And then Scott corrects him. He's like, "A clatter."
clatter.
Arose such a clatter. A sound came about.
Did you know that was going to be the title of this movie, Such a Clatter? That was the original
I would
working
never-
title.
Was it really?
Yeah, and then they just changed it to the Santa Claus, which for the reasons we get into later.
Yeah.
I think that
Santa.
works.
This was almost Tim Allen stars in Such a Clatter.
That changes everything.
I would have been addicted to methamphetamines if that was the name of this.
Yeah, I would have too.
Remember what you were talking about with Saving Private Ryan? That could have changed history.
That could have changed everything. But he finally gets the kid to go to bed, and all of a sudden, what
There
happens,
rose
Andrew?
such a clatter.
There's a big thud on the roof. It echoes throughout the house, and Charlie screams, wakes up, and runs into his dad's room. Is like, Dad, a clatter, and Tim Allen, Scott Calvin was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
He did. He literally said, "What,
What?
the fuck are you talking about, you idiot dipshit kid?"
Really aggressive. I'm surprised Disney allowed that.
Did not say that.
But Scott was like, I don't just. It's probably the way to go back to sleep. And then all of a sudden you hear a boom, 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 boom up on the roof, and he's
Up
like,
on the rooftop.
Yep. He's
Reindeer
like,
paws.
holy shit, Charlie. He's like, you stay put here. Someone's on the roof. I'm gonna go check it out. He runs out, comes back. You know how to dial 911, right? And he's like, yeah. 911. Hilarious.
We haven't gotten to one joke that I've laughed at this point in this movie.
There really aren't many. It's a little too on the nose, a little too dry.
It's too on the nose, and a lot of it is childlike. So,
it's very childlike.
and I
very
was-
family
I
friendly.
assume as a kid I was laughing my ass.
But basically, they go outside and he sees a home intruder on his roof and he goes, "Hey, you!" And the guy turns around in a Santa Claus suit and falls to his death.
And
Which I never got clear on that. Did he die?
Yeah, did he have a heart attack? Because he
Does
he
Santa
landed
have
in
hypertension?
right. This is a mythical creature. Like, how did he just like
Mythical
fucking
humanoid,
die?
maybe.
He fell into like
a bank of snow.
a
It was
bank
like
of snow.
a couple
Like, he
feet,
should be
2 or 3
okay.
feet. Yeah.
Now, in my 30s, would have definitely have a slip disc at the point.
Yeah.
Probably. Oh, for sure.
But
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Cracked.
But
Oh, yeah,
but this
for
is
sure.
Santa Claus. He's trained for this shit, and he just died.
He just died. He Yoda'd. He completely Yoda'd and force ghosted him way out of that. They look up and they see the reindeer and they come back and then it's just clothes.
It's just clothes.
Which
There's no physical.
I wish that they'd actually filmed this, but the original script called for Scott to shoot him.
Oh, that
with a
so
shotgun.
funny. I knew
Thinking
we were
he
going to
was
get the
in
gun
it.
violence at some point.
they needed some gun violence in this
So
movie.
I-
They
There
needed
was
to
some.
juice
There
it
was
up a bit. But
I think he knew it was an intruder, so he goes out with a shotgun, not knowing, and shoots him, which would have been hilarious. But
can you
That'd
imagine?
been so funny.
but Disney was like, we can't do
condone that.
Yeah, so
I can condone it.
I think they didn't have any other way to kill Santa,
That's sad.
so they just have him.
He just fell.
Santa committed self-kill.
I mean, to be fair, we didn't really see how he landed. He could have literally just broken his neck.
No, we saw how he landed. He landed straight on his back. Like, you see him slip, you see him like slide off, and you see him land in the snow. There was nothing around that.
I don't think it was a full body shot though. Like it was maybe like his back and legs.
I'm saying Santa had an aneurysm, fell, and died.
I think he got spooked, and then but remember when
That's
he's down
fair.
there, he does wave. He waves. And that's him waving goodbye.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but then they go start rooting through his clothes as one does, and pulls out.
Well, he's checking for ID.
Yeah, which again, as one does, and gets a.
It's like a little a business card.
Yeah.
It looks fancy.
It
It's got
says-
some lettering. It just says the Santa Claus.
but it doesn't say clause. It says CLAUSE.
Yes, correct.
It does.
Like
so it's not Santa
contract
Claus. It's Santa
clause.
Claus.
And then on the back it says, "If something were to happen to me, put on the suit. The reindeers will know what to do."
Yeah.
Of course, the big game animals would understand with their fully developed brains
They're
and frontal lobes.
magical big game
I'm so
animals.
fucking sorry.
Don't
I'm so
forget
sorry.
that little.
How
So
dare you
fucking
talk about
tidbits.
Comet that way? He was the most like energized character.
Yeah,
in
there
the
also
entire movie.
there's no Rudolph. Do we get around that fact that there's no Rudolph? in this?
Rudolph, like
He was back playing reindeer games.
yeah, duh. Good one, Chase. That was great.
Dad joke of the episode.
But before they even get up on the roof, remember that ladder appears just out of nowhere.
And
a
it's
nice
the-
magical wooden ladder, and on the there's like embroidering on the front that says "A Rose Suchek Ladder Company" or something like that. The way that
Rose
Charlie,
Sucher-
the way that
Rose
Charlie
Sucher.
pronounced it like a kid.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
it was an interesting little foray.
It was cute.
It was cute.
It was so cute.
So they get up on the ladder. He brings the clothes with him. They go up to obviously check on the fucking
Reindeer.
small herd of reindeer that's made their way to the roof. And he's like, "Oh, it's a present from the power company.
Maybe they'll give
It's
us
a-
the Disney Channel this time around." Shameless plug there.
There you go. And then what happens at this point is Charlie goads his dad into putting on the outfit because he really wants to have a good time with his papa. And he does, and he picks up the bag, and it suctions him into the chimney, and the chimney reshapes, and he reshapes to fit the chimney. Who the fuck knows what's going on there?
He just
became a
morphs
liquid.
down the chute to
did.
get into the house.
To get into the house,
like a
drops
plasma.
off. Yeah, he drops off the presents, comes back up, and that's how the Santa Claus gets in and out of people's homes for a
Which-
home invasion in this movie.
I want to put a pin in that too because there's a lot of like weird magical shit happening, and he does not really question it like a one would in this situation.
He does, but it's not as
He's
much
just
as
like-
you'd want. He's just
he-
kind of like, all
he-
right, I'm just going with it.
Yeah, he literally just goes with it. He's like, "Oh, there's reindeer on my roof. Must be from the power company." And then he goes down the chimney, which should cause you to have an aneurysm or a stroke.
Yeah.
Or at least like sit there and question all sense of reality.
But think about it this way: if a 4-year-old was watching this and Scott Calvin reacted in the way that any normal person would, how do you think that would be received? Like you see some adult like having a panic attack, like that would ruin it for every child
really funny.
watching.
That'd be really funny,
It would
but-
be very funny
because you
and
get
very
the same
dark.
reality.
and then you put Santa getting shot in there,
That'd be great.
and then
It would change the wholesomeness
like yeah,
of this movie
can you
altogether.
imagine
But
Scott?
that is wholesome. Gun violence in America is wholesome. My guns have rights.
Amen, brother.
Amen.
So he drops into the chimney, comes back up, and then they just start doing that at other
Yeah,
houses.
he's such a fucking prick in some of the other houses.
Yeah,
like there's
he's
that
like
one little
throwing the
girl.
canoe.
The canoe
He's
knocks
like,
the tree over.
he's like, go the fuck to sleep.
He's essentially to that shit. Which honestly, I mean, yeah, go to sleep. Shut up.
You
Go
want
to
your
sleep.
presents? Just shut up.
up.
Again, he accepted it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
This man has better patience than me. He's accepted it, and he's just like going around for the ride. Now he's like, I just got to do it till the job's done.
He does do that, and I don't. There's no timeline given for how long it takes. Who would know? We should do the math on that later. I have a feeling that it's completely unrealistic in any way, shape, or form. And then,
Remember, there's a little time continuum.
oh yeah, that's
thing,
right.
though?
The space continuum.
Yeah.
The 5-year-old
Just throws it out
yeah,
there.
He has an understanding of wormhole theory.
But they just keep doing that.
And then where do they end up?
They eventually make their way up to the North Pole.
They do indeed. And it's a balmy night in the North Pole during the month of winter when I'm pretty sure the Earth's axis is tilted so much that they have a continuous night and the temperatures are probably close to, I don't know, -50. And little Charlie's
Probably
just sitting
even
there with rosy
lower than
cheeks
that.
and his little windbreaker on like nothing's happening. So they land.
And wasn't Tim Allen just like the Santa suit was just falling off of him? So there's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
way he was like anything was tight knit
No,
to his
not at
body,
all.
or he was.
It was probably
Not yet.
like 7 sizes, 8 sizes
at
too
one
big.
point, like he was wearing just underwear
Yeah.
outside.
Which,
like
I
he
mean,
didn't put
let's
pants.
get back to that. Wow.
He didn't put pants on to kill Santa Claus.
Also, like flying at that altitude over and over again, like you'd get frostbite.
Yeah, there's just we can't dive too much into it because we're just gonna find too many things.
Yeah.
So
It
basically,
doesn't matter.
they're like what is the they land, the reindeer go away. He's like, oh no, great, well, great, we're stuck here. And then all of a sudden, the snow fucking melts or magic takes them underneath the ice, and then
No,
there's just
remember some elf comes out
That's
from one of the
right.
snow banks, and that pole is there, and a keypad pops out,
yes,
and they type in
naturally.
some code, and then they start
Which-
to
yes, they had to disarm the ADT security system to get in.
Which I actually thought was like really clever.
clever, yeah.
Like, I liked it. I liked it enough. And then they get down into the North Pole, and you have
Santa's workshop.
Santa's workshop, and the kids, and the elves,
Elves.
kids. Which I like the fact that the elves were kids.
They were young.
Yeah, they were young, and
Minus Bernard, of course.
That was the director's choice.
Yeah.
to make them kids, because he wanted the feeling of, that he can't just freak out and be like mean because all these kids are around him, and
Yeah.
he has like a sensibility because he is a father to not be an asshole to children.
But he also has a sensibility to be a prick in real life too. So
Yeah.
we need something to counter
Yeah,
that.
his patience is still being tested, but he sees all these kids. They're working, I guess, on next year's gifts and stuff. So,
Yeah.
and he meets the head elf, Bernard.
David Krumholtz, great actor by the way.
Yeah, a great performance here.
Yeah. I still don't understand the little mini dreads he had ever, but
No,
knows?
yeah,
And he speaks like he's from Brooklyn, you
Well,
know.
isn't he from Brooklyn?
I'm pretty sure Krumholtz is from New York.
Yeah,
so.
he did.
Sure he
He
is.
didn't change his voice at all. That
No.
was just his voice.
We didn't need it to. It
Very
was fine.
versatile actor. I mean,
But-
you look at his career and what he's done. I mean, he can do a lot.
Yeah,
So
and
good for him.
He's kind of talking to Tim Allen. Charlie's like in
In
Wonderland. Yeah, just like loving every moment of this. Wants to live there. Wants to be Santa Claus. All this good stuff. Charlie has a heart of gold, is what they're establishing here. And Tim Allen's walking around the workshop. I just want to go home. Can I get home? I just need to get back home.
And he's like, "You're Santa Claus," and he's like, "I'm not Santa Claus. I'm Scott Calvin." "Oh, you're Santa Claus. You'll be back here, and in
November.
time for the new year, the new Christmas year by Thanksgiving." And he's like, "No, I won't."
Yeah, and
I'm
so
not doing that again.
Yeah, and he was like, "No, I." And then he finally pulls out the Santa Claus card that he took off the dead body, and they read some really fine print,
It's like tiny
print. So they had to pull out
The
a
border.
mag,
It's the border of the small red border.
And it reads like a legal contract
It does.
that anybody that takes that card is now destined to be Santa Claus
There you go.
Anyone
until
puts
they
on the suit,
die,
yeah.
until they have an aneurysm
Until
and die,
they get scared or,
and
fall into a bank of snow.
he's still like in disbelief. He's like, this isn't happening. I'm not Santa Claus. Whatever.
So then...
Take me to my chambers. I need some food. I need to eat.
Yeah, and this complete... I don't believe it, but let me eat at least in my chambers.
And
So
there was this one funny part when he gets in that room and he's just like kind of tired. He pulls his pants down because he's going to try to get undressed for the night. And there's
it's
two
the puppets.
and one of the puppets just screams.
Yes.
So that was funny. It gave me a chuckle.
Little weird joke there. He's getting served the hot chocolate from Judy, and he was like, I don't want any. And she was like, it took me 1,200 years to perfect the recipe. And he's like, 1,200 years, huh? Okay. I must say, you look pretty good for your age. And she's like, awkwardly, like sheepishly responds, I'm seeing someone in wrapping. And he was like, oh,
The child.
okay.
Yeah.
So she's a child, but she's also 1,200 years old, and
Yes.
she's seeing someone.
Think vampire.
Just, I don't know. I felt very conflicted in that moment.
Yeah. There's some stuff like that I also felt was like, this doesn't really track. It's not really working for me.
Yeah. It didn't bother me. It was just an awkward.
Because I didn't see him as like hitting on her.
No,
as much.
she
It's
was the
just
one who
like-
made it weird.
Yeah, like where he was just like, "You look good for your age," and it's kind of like sarcastic.
It was
I think.
very
Yeah.
sarcastic.
It was very.
I
odd.
thought he was trying to hit on her. Like,
What are you,
sure.
Bernard?
But anyways, he goes to bed after he's had his little fill. Wait. Didn't we get the snow globe? The snow globe's at that point.
Oh, yeah.
right?
Bernard
Gotta talk about
gives
the-
Charlie a little snow globe at the beginning, calls him Sport. Hiya, Sport. Hands him the
Sport.
snow globe. He's like, I've had this longer than, I've been alive. Or something. He's like, it's been around
Which
longer
makes
than I've been
sense.
alive. Hands it to him. And it looked like a really nice, put together, well-made snow
Yeah.
globe. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then he gets it.
It's a very nice snow globe.
It's very nice.
That'll come in handy later.
And then they fall asleep
And
and
wake-
then,
where
and
do
wake
they wake
up
up?
in his own home.
So
And-
it's just a fever dream. He
Yeah.
just took a bad batch of acid and they just woke up and now they're just fucking.
That's what Tim Allen thinks. He
And-
like gets up. Charlie's unwrapping his presents, and he's like, "Oh, it was just a dream." But he looks down and he's wearing the pajamas.
The silk pajamas with the SC embroidered on the breast
And
pocket.
doesn't know how he got them.
And he's like, what the fuck? And then he's like, oh shit, what happened last night?
He's convinced it was a dream.
Dream.
He's telling Charlie it was a dream because Charlie knows about it too, which would break the dream theory.
And Charlie's down there. His mom has just arrived, and he's yapping about it. And he's like, we went to the North Pole. We flew in a sleigh with 12 reindeer, yada, yada, yada. And Bernard, the house elf, gave me... And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well,
What'd y'all do last night?
And not only that, but she panics. Instead of just being like, oh, childish imagination, like we all would do with the 6-year-old. Like, she's just like looking at Neil, and they're both just like,
what foolish endeavors has my son gotten into? Scott?
What kind of ideations is the 6-year-old having right now about a fictional person that he thinks is real?
And Neil's just like feverishly sweating, but also like getting
He's not
somewhat,
a nihilist yet? Fuck me, you shit.
He's also getting kind of turned on because this is like a therapist dream.
Absolutely.
So
But this is where we embark on essentially like a 30-minute journey in this film of...
It's pretty quick.
It's pretty quick. And we go through a lot. Like, this is a very sad part of the film. About 20 to 30 minutes of just Charlie being gaslit by his dad.
And his mom and stepdad.
Like, what you see wasn't real. That never happened. What you see wasn't real. That never happened. I know it happened. Why are you lying for it? La, la, la. And they go to the school, and they have
the first, episode after that Christmas, whatever you want to call it, experience. They're having like a dad day, if you will.
it was like a
Career day.
Career day, and you enter on the firefighter,
which was one of the funniest parts because it was literally like, and that's why third-degree burns are
so-
the most painful. And then she goes, "Thank you so much
The teacher, that is.
for telling us that, and we're really sorry about your partner."
it was so funny.
That was fucking hilarious.
That was kind of put there just like in Jingle All the Way, the guy with the safety suit.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yep.
We had to have one good moment for the parents to be there, and that was worth the watch, in my opinion. At that
And
point,
then Charlie brings his dad up, and he's got the, what was it, Debbie Does Dallas doll or whatever it was.
fucking knows.
Yeah, who knows?
But he starts saying like, "My dad's Santa Claus."
And all the kids start laughing, and then
And then Scott's like, "Well, I'm kind of like Santa Claus. I'm a toy executive and create toys. And Charlie's like, no, we went to the North Pole on Christmas Eve. And he just starts spouting off all the shit.
And all these 6-year-olds too, who should have the same imagination he does, are just like,
Yeah,
fucking,
right.
like,
Santa's not
fuck up,
real.
yeah, and they
You
pull out their
dipshit.
cigarettes and start
They do.
smoking.
What's that dork say? He asks like a really like cutting question. Oh shit! What is it? Do you remember?
It doesn't matter. His character didn't matter at all.
It didn't. But you could tell he was like the class bully.
Yeah, and they establish him as the bully and never just like return to that.
Never.
But you could just Charlie's just getting kind of ridiculed, and at this point, Neil and his mom are having huge concerns, like detrimental concerns, and then.
They're like, why is my son hallucinating? Why is he making this shit up? Of his own? Come
And
on.
Scott's trying to get. He's like, "Hey, keep this a secret between you and I."
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't explain.
No.
Doesn't say anything other than that. And the kid says, "Yeah." Charlie's like, "Yeah,
I'll give you $5 for it.
Yeah, I'll give you $5 for
But
your
like
silence."
something we didn't touch on that we just will lightly talk about real quick is the fact that like pretty much a week later he starts growing facial hair and gaining an obscene amount of weight,
Like
45 pounds in 1 week, which is you would probably die.
unhealthy.
It's beyond unhealthy
Because he walks into that board meeting and he's wearing sweatpants with a sports jacket over top. And they're like, Scott, what the fuck happened to you?
Which
dude?"
dry cleaner burned down with all my clothes in it. You'll never guess. I'll have a hot fudge sundae, Caesar salad without the chicken. I'll also have 3 cookies. I'll have what else does he have in there?
Creme brulee.
Creme brulee, like fucking like just
Extra fudge on the
sugar.
side. Oh, and I got stung by a bunch of bees.
That's why I'm so bloated.
Yeah,
It'll go away though.
It all makes sense. Doesn't
So
it?
he's
He's like
essentially
nastily like eating all this.
that was the part that
It's
like
kinda
is
gross.
still pretty nasty for me. Like that just doesn't
I don't
feel
like
good.
it. I don't like mouth noises in general.
Yeah,
So.
and it was that. So like he starts gaining weight and looking more and more like Santa as the months go on because this is happening over the course of months, even though we're not saying it is.
Yeah.
It's definitely happening over the course of months.
He goes to the doctor, and he's like having him run on the treadmill, and then he like checks his pulse, and he's like, your pulse is fine, man. You
Blood
seem to
pressure's
be-
fine,
Seem to be
cholesterol's-
healthy as
yeah.
a horse, is what he says. And
yeah.
and he's like, what do you eat? And he's like, oh, cookies and milk.
I don't finish all the milk, and he's like, "Well, there's your problem. Just cut back on the sweets. You'll be fine."
At that point, they saw the doctor. He had gained so much weight.
It was like 100
Which-
pounds at that point.
Did you know during the stress test, Tim Allen threatened to storm off set?
No, why?
Because when he was running on the treadmill, they had a 50-pound fat suit on him.
Oh fuck!
And the reason it was 50 pounds is because they wanted it to jiggle when he ran.
Fuck.
And so he was doing take after take, and it was the last take of the day, so it was midnight
Martini
when he was doing it. And the glue was ripping his skin, and they kept telling him he's going to do another take, and he was just furious. He
I'd be
was
fucking
I'd be
pissed.
pissed too.
I would
I'd
be
fucking
pissed.
walk off. Like, this is not humane. This hurts.
No,
This is
that
not
would
worth
50
it.
pounds, and you're run. Even if you're a slight jog with 50 pounds on, that would no. If you're not used to doing that, and also the weight being that low on your body, awful. That's got to be awful.
Hurt your back,
this is
too.
what Tim
Yes,
Allen says.
exactly.
Tim Allen says it's 50 pounds. I don't think it probably weighed that much, but
I
at the
mean,
same time,
anything above 20 pounds at that point.
That's
Well,
a
not
lo-
even that.
that's
not
a
even,
lot.
Yeah, even 15 pounds over the course of hours, if you're doing this take and you just have it on, would be absolutely miserable.
I mean,
Right.
running with
So-
a weighted vest sucks as it is, so
Yeah.
I can't imagine a fat suit that's probably making you sweat and the fucking glue.
and it was also during the Toronto heat wave that he was wearing this, and in a warehouse. They were doing this in a warehouse.
Hell yeah.
So I understand.
Can't have fans on.
No.
Yeah, no, I don't blame him at all. Usually a lot of people are like, I can't believe you're getting paid that much money. No, like if you're not used to doing that, you're not ready for that. No, fuck that noise. I'd be out too. I'd be like, fuck this.
But a cute little it's not really, I mean, it's kind of imagery, but he checks his heartbeat with the stethoscope, and what's his heartbeat but jingle bells?
Yeah, I love Blair. Loved that.
Yeah,
that part.
you
Like,
know.
and it's cute. It's. I
Kidsy,
mean,
it's,
yeah, it's like when I was watching it, I was thinking during that whole scene, it's like I don't find any of this funny, but I bet as a kid, I would find this hilarious
For sure.
And I probably laughed at like Tim Allen getting really fat all of a sudden. But during this whole time, we need to go back to the board meeting because I love the board meeting, and he has a couple of them. But the one where he goes in and what was it? They had the Santa tank.
Oh yeah, there was a new toy, a Santa tank, and he was like, "No, that's not right. Santa, you can finish it. You can."
Yeah,
you
it's
remember
like
it."
Santa wouldn't drive a Panzer.
He would though.
I think
I think he would.
Santa would definitely drive a Panzer. Isn't he a Germanic myth,
Yeah.
anyways? Or is he a Slavic myth?
I think so.
Or is that- or am I
Maybe
thinking
I thought
more?
Santa Claus was like from Turkey or something. I'm not even kidding you. I'm pretty
I thought
sure.
Santa was Mandarin.
I'm pretty
I
sure
thought
the
he was
original
Chinese.
I'm pretty sure the original Saint Nicholas is from Turkey.
anyway, they introduced the Santa tank, starts throwing a fit over it, and the other executives just are like shocked. Like, why are you all of a sudden
And
on a high horse
He
about
goes
Santa Claus?
into details about the elves. Like, why can't they be kids with some like sparkle on
Silver
their
cheeks.
their silver cheeks? And just extreme detail.
Yeah, and they're
about what he experienced.
They're throwing this detail in here where he's now he's starting to become Santa Claus, basically.
Yeah.
Not so much like an asshole anymore.
No, he can't help it because he's evolving.
He's evolving into the man.
But we're having all this
This
stuff
is what
happen.
Darwin was talking about too.
This is exactly what it is. Rapid evolution of a species. But we literally, like, all this stuff is happening concurrently. And this is a very short movie. It isn't, it is
like an
it
hour
is
and a half. It's
Hour,
like
hour and a half.
30
Because
I
we're
mean,
getting a
it's-
lot of stuff happening. And this is the part where it starts getting really sad because they're starting to get into a custody battle over the kid.
They're at a soccer game, and at this point, his hair is
He looks like Santa
grayish
Claus.
white. He looks like Santa
Yeah,
Claus. He's wearing, tracksuit, but like, Christmas color themed, and he's on the bench watching Charlie play, and these kids start lining up to tell Santa what they want for Christmas.
Yeah, these kids know it's Santa. They
Yeah.
can feel the magic. And Neil and his mom see that, and she thinks it's so despicable that he would change his appearance to try to.
yeah.
get Charlie to like him.
Yeah.
This is wrong. And mind you, they've already had a parent-teacher conference about this shit.
Yeah.
And,
Like, you got to tell them that it's not real. And this is when they
Which-
make the promise pact.
Which Scott keeps saying, "I'm not Santa. This
does.
isn't real." Like,
But,
he keeps
but
siding
it doesn't matter.
with them.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter because he's not. He doesn't have a whole home for
I
the
mean-
child to go to. So they're always going to side. They always side with the mother, anyways. But they're always going to side. Like, if in that situation, if he looks like he's like causing the problem, then they're always going to give it to the.
To be
the
fair,
mom.
though, how would you react if someone you knew very well just dramatically changed your physical appearance in like less than a month's time?
I
The
would-
fact that Scott Calvin did.
I would excommunicate myself from them.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even
I would,
ask how
I
they
would
are.
have to. I would have to know. I would be like, "What happened?"
If something's different, like if you showed up and you were different, like if you got like a nose job, I would never speak to you again.
We're not talking about just.
Sorry,
he
if you got
dyed
a
his
nose
hair.
job and a knee
Hair
job, I would
color,
never talk
body
to you.
size.
Andrew just changed his entire face.
If Andrew's finger got cut off in an industrial accident, I still wouldn't talk to him because you're not the same person I used to know.
That's fair. I'm glad
you.
you're sticking to your guns there.
Thank you.
But Andrew is a lizard person, so it would grow back almost
He is a lizard
overnight.
person. Well, pump the brakes on that one there, Poe.
He has a lizard brain.
He does have a lizard brain and a lizard pee-pee. He has a cloaca. It does both at the same time. So
Fuck yeah, baby.
So
It's so
we're just getting to the point in this movie where it's getting very sad. They file for like sole custody, and by they I mean the mom and Neil, and they have to go to the actual judge who's overseeing everything, and he talks to the kid. Santa comes in, and he's Santa at this point, and he's talking to the judge, and the judge is like, I got some really sad news. I know it's so close to the holidays, but your visitation rights are suspended until the first of the year until you can have a hearing about it. And at that point, I was like, this is really fucking sad because this poor guy doesn't really have any control over his situation, what's happening. He can't just revoke it. His genetics are changing clearly into like this totally realistic.
Of course, they don't know
And their
that, but-
reasoning for taking the child is not even a reason. Like because
It's not.
and because they're looking at him getting fatter and growing a beard.
And the kid thinking that he looks like Santa and saying, my dad is Santa. And the kid is going through a phase that like it's not.
And even though the dad agrees and says, "Hey, I'm not Santa," and he was just jolly and told the judge that, "Oh yeah, my dad's Santa," and the judge was like, "Oh my God, we can't have this 6-year-old having an imagination.
Can't have that.
He may vote
No.
Democrat."
He may not become a STEM child. So that happens, and that's really fucking sad. So we're nearing the end of the movie. There's only like 15, 20 minutes left.
And by this time, it's what? Almost Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It's about Christmas time. So he's getting his final preparations ready. And this all unfolds so quickly. I'm just going to rip the Band-Aid off. And essentially, he goes over, on Christmas Eve.
No, it was Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
because he had a full month to prepare. So they
So it was Thanksgiving then that he goes over and says, let me just say a real goodbye to my kid.
Yep.
And abducts his own child. So there's that.
We know it's Thanksgiving because when he goes over there, Bernard randomly shows up too and starts eating the turkey. He's like, pretty fucking dry. And he says
True,
that.
yeah, he does say that.
And Scott's like, let me say goodbye to Charlie real quickly. We'll have a moment together.
And
And
to his defense, he does try to. Like, Charlie's like pressuring him, and he's like, let me go with you, Dad. Let me go with you, Dad.
And he asks Bernard, he's like, can I go? He's like, I don't see why not. And then
Even though Bernard is not the person to ask about anything in the situation, but he just go ahead and gives his 2 cents. Yeah. So they go
just
to
leave.
they go to the fucking North Pole, and like
Neil and the mom come back and they're like, where the fuck are they?
she was a little calm about that. If roles were reversed and I was in her brain, I would be like, shit, he's on drugs. He just took our kid, and this is the last time I'm going to see my child. And she goes, Charlie.
She does call the boys in blue though.
She does, and they put out an APB, and he's like, he looks like Santa Claus. He's like, is he gonna stand out? Is he gonna have a red suit and a beard? Like, yeah, actually, he would, because he's Santa Claus.
And then it's funny because the police chief just looks over him and goes, "Hey, it's serious. This is a child abductor. Like, who gives a fuck what he looks like? You need to be ready to go."
So, what are they doing the whole time that they're in the North Pole? Andrew,
They're
whoever, take it. I don't.
They're making upgrades to Santa's sleigh.
Preparing for the Christmas season. They have
Christmas expedition,
and he keeps asking the same question that no one answers. Is like, what if I fall off the roof? What if I fall? And they're like, well, we have to
find that out.
And they're like, well, we have a flame retardant suit. Yeah.
But I don't think they ever answered that question.
Which I thought was really funny, because it started with like a face and hands, and like they blast it with flames, and the suit's fine, but the hands and the face are gone. I was like, I thought that was pretty funny.
And then he just like stares at it. He goes, but what if I fall off the roof? Like, it's such a simple question that no one answered him. It's like
we do get an answer, because we get to the point where it's time to deliver presents, and he's in the sleigh with Charlie, and he goes up to Comet, and he goes, Comet, is this a rope? And the Comet goes, oh. And he goes, is this in case I fall off the roof? Oh, thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it. Yeah, the herding animal
thought of
the
everything.
herbivore made it for you. Yeah, cool. So I was glad they had a nice
Comet.
little interaction there. But they go off to deliver the presents, and when we get up in the air, Charlie's showing up, and we put this in there, and we put this in here, and then there's this,
and let's just say this: when the whole month, Charlie just turns into this like amazing, intelligent engineer that's just building onto this sleigh that he's never seen before, or he doesn't even know how the propulsion system works.
I think he's more of an idea man and less of an executioner.
Yeah,
well, you need those people around. You know,
I'm sure he executed several elves in the like experiment department.
Sure he did. Just very efficient, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. There were several explosions and several lives lost.
So this is a story hole that I had a problem with, and they're going through and like. I guess we'll just...
Charlie's gone for, what, a month?
Yeah, a whole entire month. And Santa knows this, and Charlie probably doesn't know as much, but Santa knows. They're delivering. About halfway through their delivery, he's like, hey, you want to go to our house? Where there's probably police, and there's probably people that are looking for me? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, let's go. As soon as he gets there, he goes down the chimney, and he gets fucking caught by the police.
And arrested.
So now we have this completely avoidable situation that's just like, all right, well, this is our reality now, so we're going to go there.
You could have seen that one coming there, Scott. I mean, come on.
Yeah, could have just done that last. I don't know.
We also forgot to mention earlier in the movie, because someone's going to be listening and wanted us to like glance over this, but do you remember the list that he got?
Oh, yeah. It was about halfway through that transformation. These DHL type people
it was
like
Federal Express. FedEx,
there were like 6 giant trucks, or like vans, if you will, and they drop off the naughty nice list, which is just like boxes upon boxes upon boxes that fill his entire like front foyer and living room.
Yeah, and they told him that they would deliver it. I wonder, with it being FedEx, do you think it came late? Do you think that was like December 10th?
No, it was still warm. It was probably like fall.
Yeah,
that's what it seemed like.
If FedEx, I don't believe it. I believe that was late, and then he never checked it, and he was just delivering presents the whole time.
We'll run with that.
Yeah, and then
so he gets arrested.
And the police take him in, and that's when we get my favorite part of the movie as an adult, because the North Pole has its own Army Rangers.
It's their own SWAT team.
Yeah, like their SWAT team. They're called
the elves with periods in between each letter. It stands for the Effective Liberating Fight Squad. And there's nothing that special about these
But,
elves.
like-
They're a little bit older looking,
But
but
I was joking the whole time. I was like expecting them to come out with like MP5s and like flash
combat
grenades.
elves.
they just have like very like casual like jetpacks that don't even make them go that fast.
Right, and they
they're just
co-
like floating.
And
They
they
are.
and I was waiting for them to like they come over to Charlie and they're like, "Hey, let's get Santa back." And I wanted them to hand him a Beretta 9mm and
With
go,
a
"Safety's
silencer.
on your left." And like,
Safety always off.
yeah,
No, but what was funny about that is he had just been arrested, and you would think that Mom and Neil would have been like, "Where's Charlie?" He's just sitting up on the fucking roof by himself with the
is.
reindeer.
yeah.
He's just up there sitting on a cold roof covered in snow. No one's even
No one
like
gives a shit. No one
screaming
asks.
for him or asking for him.
Yeah,
He's
they're
up
not
there.
like even interrogating him. They take him back to just a normal jail cell, and
Scott
that
Calvin. That is.
they put him in jail. They're not interrogating him, and while
They did ask him questions. He
They
was
did-
like, "I want you to say your name, Scott Calvin." He starts listing off all like the different
Santa
names
Claus,
for Santa Claus, Père
Papa
Noël.
Noel, yeah.
But
whatever.
that's the most
That's
important
it.
question
That's
to
it.
ask the man that knows who he is.
Admit
What's
that
your
you're
name?
Scott Calvin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
we know you're not Santa Claus because that can't be real.
and we don't care about your child.
Don't worry about the child. We want to know that you're not Santa Claus.
And they put him in a normal jail cell where the one guard on duty that night is asleep at the desk.
just this
he's got
morbidly
donuts.
obese
Yeah, just
man.
old man.
And
too.
he's just like munching on some donuts.
And-
And these elves come in with Charlie.
Well, first the elves, what they do is they put some C4 on the hinges of the door, blow it.
Oh, they have all of their
yeah.
neat gadgets.
They throw in a flashbang grenade.
Yeah, and then
you
they
know.
put
Yeah.
2 in the chest, 1 in the head
They
of this
do.
guy.
They do a full Mozambique on him. They just
And then
fucking
they
get it done.
scalp him. They
They
scalp him.
They do.
Yeah,
And
take it as a
they
trophy.
put his head on a pike for all the other cops as a warning.
No, they actually, I thought they were going to do something really cool. As a kid, I thought it was going to be something more fun than what they did. They just wrapped
like
the
wear his
dude up
body as
in
a
like,
suit?
like giant tinsel.
I didn't understand what was happening, and it looked really inappropriate because they were all 4 of them standing around this guy in a rolly chair, and they had their hands on their crotch, and there's just like ribbon spilling
Ribbon,
out
that's
of
what
it,
it was.
and they're going like,
And they spin him around while he's in this wheelie.
It looked like they were soggy.
Ejaculating.
It looked like they were
Yeah.
biscuiting him like the whole
Their
time.
ejaculate was ribbon.
Just throw. Yeah, because
that's
how
exactly what elves would have if they.
yeah, so it fits.
It was a little bit,
But they
sexual.
are
somebody
children.
Did,
so,
somebody
like-
somebody
and
did
they
that
looked
on purpose.
way too mischievous and joyful doing it. So I thought that was a little weird.
But all they did was spin him up in the chair and ribbon,
and
and
then
then
put a donut in his mouth, so he probably suffocated.
yeah,
Probably died.
it was more tactful
Body
than
count.
just like shooting him.
Yeah, so that's 2 dead now in this movie.
So and then they go back to the jail cell and they use the tinsel,
to cut through the lock.
which I thought
bolts.
was cool.
Yeah.
And that's what I was expecting for them to do to the guy, like knock him unconscious with some magic or something instead of just spin him up in a bunch of ribbon. But they rescue Santa, so now Santa is.
Also, before we leave this scene, I think maybe the worst line in this movie happened as they were leaving. There was another guy in like the jail cell next to him. He was like, "Hey, can I get some of that tinsel?" Hard cut away. And it was just
Yeah.
like,
Nothing.
so
I even
fucking lame.
restrict that from my memory. That was so.
It was
bad.
so bad. It was just so.
That wouldn't even be
cringe.
funny as a child.
It wasn't.
If you laugh at that as a child,
Then
then
you've got a shitty life ahead of you.
shitty life.
So
Um,
check yourself.
They rescue Santa, and doesn't he immediately just go back to the family place?
Yeah, he goes back to the
It
Millers.
goes back to where he was to deliver the child.
Yeah, they have a little heart-to-heart moment. It's very
Yeah, instead of freaking the fuck out, they all casually talk. He casually just walks in with Charlie, and the family's like, "Oh, Charlie, I missed you," and it's
and
like,
you can see they're kind of like bug-eyed and like, "How dare you step foot in here?" They don't say it, but like they're just kind of staring.
I would have been like, "How did you get out of jail? Did you just like?"
If I were the mom, I would have fucking smacked him.
yeah.
How dare you?
And then they have this heart-to-heart moment where
Charlie's like crying, and his dad is like,
I can't. Yeah, I've got to finish the rest of this. You need to stay with your mom and Neil. And the mom at this point, just her brain just goes to mush, and she just immediately is like, "Santa."
it is you.
It really is you.
Yeah, and she just like starts like freaking out, and then she grabs the custody papers and throws them in the fire as the gift to Scott.
Yeah.
And
then Neil was like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And
And
then he takes a second and like stares. And
Yeah,
then
that was fucking stupid.
it was lame.
I
That was
hated
dumb.
that
And this
scene.
close up where his eyes just get big. And he's
It
like,
is you.
Santa? It is you.
So fucking dumb. Like, what was the impetus for changing him that happened when he looked closer at him.
Well, he's a cuck, and his wife showed him.
But he
She
shakes
did.
it off and kind of comes back out of it, and he's just like trying to argue, like, "Oh, we can't let Charlie go." And then he talks Charlie into like staying because I have stuff I have to do. I have some responsibility.
He says
you have the
something-
responsibility to be with your mom.
He says something sweet. It was sweet. Charlie was like, "I can't be selfish. I'll stay here." And, Scott was like, "Selfish? You're the only one who would believe in me from the beginning," or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
it was like a little nice moment between them, and then Bernard comes out of nowhere again, and he's
eating the alfalfa sandwich.
and we're
Yeah.
just like, Bernard, why aren't you Santa
And it
Claus?
would be a fucking alfalfa sandwich on Christmas Eve.
Charlie, still got that snow globe? Well, when you shake the snow globe, your dad will come, no matter
alert
what.
him. He'll be
So,
back in a jiffy.
what they're mentioning is that his dad is going to now go live at the North Pole, is what I'm guessing. And so Scott goes off to deliver the rest of the presents, and then immediately as he leaves, he starts shaking the snow globe. You couldn't wait 5 minutes. I thought you understood the assignment that you were going to stay with your mom and Neil. You couldn't give it like 24 hours. And
I
then-
was halfway to Cleveland, buddy.
yeah, and then before he leaves too, he drops off the two gifts
for mom and dad.
for the mom and dad, because Neil and his mom had this heart to heart about like when they stopped believing in Santa.
What was it?
It was a mystery date board game and a Oscar Mayer weenie whistle.
Yeah, of course Neil would want a weenie whistle.
That moment where he catches it and he's like, "A weenie whistle," and he puts up to his mouth and blows into it.
When they were talking about that, he was like, "Yeah, when I was 3 years old, I wanted a weenie whistle, and it never came." I was like, "How do you fucking remember that? And why did you give up that easily in your
At
life?"
3
weenie
years
whistle.
old?
Yeah, at 3 years old.
Like, come on, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, go make a couple quarters, and go buy it. Fucking idiots.
Yeah,
Loser.
well, and
these
like,
kids
it's
want
just-
everything for free these days.
well, Neil taught them that, hey, if you don't get what you want, just give up,
For real.
become a therapist.
For real.
Psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist.
Oh,
It's different.
I'm
That's much
sorry.
different.
Quick
He's
comment before I
doctor.
forget. I thought it was funny how Scott Calvin always laughed at the fact that they called him a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm like, psychiatrist
It's
is
a
a
real,
doctor.
it's a real doctor. You have to go through some
Yes.
pretty intense. It's medical school. You have to go to
Yeah.
medical school.
That's real mental analysis
Yeah.
there. It's not
But
made
I
up.
agree
No.
with him. Neil was not a psychiatrist. He was a therapist.
He was a shrink.
He was
a swing.
yeah.
Twink.
Speaking of weenie whistle, so after that happens, he grabs Charlie and he's like, "Want to go for a ride?"
One
and
last ride.
and
His mom's like, well, okay, fine. A quick one.
So, which null and voids their whole conversation in the living room. It just wraps everything up. Also, what about the police? This-
Oh,
They all
she
forget
ran
about
out, after they had that little tender moment. Was like, "Y'all can go home. It's okay."
And they're like,
It's
"Yeah, we're
okay."
serving a warrant, ma'am. We're going inside your home."
Yeah, we've been searching for this dude for months. We're not just gonna call it.
yeah, and
quits.
also,
No
if you
complaint.
cover this up, you're going to jail as well. But anyway,
the police go away and all
just
is well.
like, and that's how this movie is. It's just everything just kind of happens, then it doesn't, and
Yep.
that's how.
And again, we end how we began. He is a father who is working most of the year and has a couple days off with his kid. Now he's just spending it better with his kid.
Yeah.
now he only has to work a couple of days of the year, and he has the rest of the year off. Yeah,
Also, he doesn't. I don't think his salary is as good as Santa Claus either. So
yeah.
But he gets to live in the North Pole now.
Oh, well, my
so-
dream.
The fading images, it shows him and Charlie in the sleigh, and they're leaving Chicago or wherever they're at.
And the mom was like, "Scott, don't fly over any oceans."
Yeah, just no oceans. Okay.
Scott, and you
It-
hear her voice like echo in the Chicago sky as they fly off
Yeah,
into the
and
night. That's pretty much it.
And that's the Santa Claus.
That's it.
So,
Hey,
Andrew, I want to know, you saw this as a child many times.
yeah.
So, what was your feeling now as an adult?
I mean, I have watched it a couple times in the past 2 or 3 years. It's definitely lost the magic. I wouldn't say this movie only works for those who are still in the believing stage, if you will, but it's definitely more of a kids movie.
Yeah.
It's very corny and on
Very
the nose.
Disney.
It's very Disney. It's very family friendly. This is a movie that I could be good with not watching for a while until there's a kid in the picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It still brings back good memories, and I'm sure if it was like on Freeform or like AMC like the day or two before Christmas, I'd probably have it on the background and be okay with it.
Got a Freeform shout out there.
So it's on Disney, so I don't know what the distribution rights would be on that.
It definitely loses its luster a bit, and looking at it from a different perspective.
It's also got a shorter runtime than A Christmas Story, because A Christmas Story is what, 24 hours? That's the runtime?
Yeah.
He's like A Wonderful Life.
Yeah. All day.
Kyle, what did you think as an adult?
You know what? This is not the worst Christmas movie that's out there. This is one
Not
that
even
I
close.
I would say it exceeded my expectations. That's about the best you're going to get out of me. I do not like these kind of movies. They are not my thing. I prefer movies that are a little bit more in the vein of like a real Christmas time, like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation or Elf, or something that has a little bit more of like a, even though those, both of those kind of have a more dark look at Christmas, I would say. But like, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
I would watch it again. Not anytime soon.
I will say this. I had trouble with this one. It made sense now reading what Eisner did, where he focused purely on Tim Allen. They cut a bunch of scenes with Charlie that kind of elaborated more on Charlie's trouble with his father. So to me, they were trying to force Scott Calvin to be this like terrible dad, and I never saw that. And you were supposed to root for the mom and Neil. But,
I don't think we ever
but
did.
also turn on their mom and Neil. It had this dynamic setup, and the movie was not written dynamically. It was point A to point B.
It was very to the point.
Yeah, to the point. It's just
Strictly
like
to the
he's
point.
Santa Claus, now he's Santa Claus, now he's delivering gifts, and now he's back with his son. I never felt any strain. Everything felt kind of slapped together.
I feel like Disney
Well-
wanted it to be more on the surface as opposed to really get into the
This is,
psychological drama.
but I mean, in those times, like in the '90s, a lot of those movies had these adult themes because adults were watching them as well.
Yeah.
I felt like this one missed a huge mark.
I agree.
There was no conflict resolved.
I will say, though, while it did miss that mark, I still think that Disney wanted to focus on the magic of someone becoming Santa Claus and how it encapsulates the young mind, which
Yeah.
it definitely did.
But
And that was its purpose,
But
really.
even in that purpose, they didn't. I don't think that they ever fully captured it because it was so quick. Like you didn't see much of the workshop other than him being in it and that little quick little, what was it, ZZ Top?
Give me all your lovin'.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was like that was so quick, and to me, it was like I remember this movie as a kid and watching it, and I do remember some of the scenes. I was like, oh wow, I do remember some of this, but I don't know. I just kind of came out of it very bleh.
I think for the adult brain, yes, but the fact that it is
Which is what we're
superficial,
doing.
yes, of course. But I don't know. I know from my little kid brain that I didn't think that deep at all. It was superficial enough that it did the trick
Well-
and made me feel what I felt.
I would say I think the both of you need to look at this from a different context because I would say that the gravity is very real in this one
think
because
it's
we're
better
talking.
than Jingle All the
I would
Way,
say like when
to
it
be-
comes
to be
down to
told.
like what we're talking about in terms of like this man is going to lose his child. That
Yeah.
scene hit really hard. As a child from a divorced home, like that hit pretty fucking real.
That's
and I
very
think
fair.
that like when it comes down to like if we're talking about what this movie was supposed to be, the art that you make, you don't get to say what it's supposed to be or not supposed to be. You can write it a certain way for sure. And I do agree with the fact that both of you are saying this is more of a point A to point B movie. Yes, I would say that's definitely what this is. There's a lot lost in that, and they did miss the mark when it comes to like making it a little bit more dynamic. But when it does come down to like how it made you feel, it still made us all feel sad. Like in that middle section, like yeah, whether or not they meant or intended it is irrelevant. It doesn't matter because that is how you felt about it. So it could have been purported to be more of this kind of movie or that kind of movie. It could have been Nosferatu. It doesn't. If that's what it made you feel, it was successful in doing something better than some of those fucking Rudolph goes to fuck himself in the '60s movies. Like it's definitely
I
like,
have that one on Blu-ray.
but this is what I'm trying to say is like this is one that like I don't remember as a kid. And watching it as an adult, I was like, okay, yeah, this is touching on some stuff that like they could have gone deeper into. They could have made it better. I wouldn't say that they missed the mark, though. I think that's a little unfair to the movie. But again, your opinion, I get it. But I just wanted to say
Well,
that.
I
I
want to add though that I do say it missed the mark, but it's because I know that there is more to this movie sitting on the cutting room floor that they made as art, and that a CEO decided I'm going to cut that up and just to put more Tim Allen in there. And there's probably more in-depth pieces to that story with Tim Allen and his son.
And adding to that, there's a stark difference and how I felt watching it now to when I watched it like 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's still a good movie. This is not me saying it's a piece of shit or don't waste your time. I feel if they had gotten a little deeper into those marks you were talking about,
Right.
it would have been a little bit stronger. It would have hit me just a little bit more.
That's what I'm saying.
You
It's
know?
like I want to see what they had written and what's on the cutting room floor. I want to see the director's cut and
Yeah,
just see.
but like, but
just out of curiosity.
devil's advocate here. How many of our favorite movies would have been that much better if they would have left all that shit in? The newest Star Wars, the original Jurassic Park. If they just hadn't made the last two Indiana Jones, there's so many things that like
They
we
just
can
left
sit
the
here-
whole movie on the cutting
They should have
room.
just left it all there. They shouldn't have even made it. But like we don't get the luxury when we see these the first time through to know all this stuff. And while I do like that we do this on this podcast to go through and be like, this is what was supposed to happen. Did you know this? Did we not know this? We didn't know any of that when we saw it. So looking at it through that lens of knowing all this stuff, it's not unfair, but I would say that for this movie to not necessarily impress me, but for me to be able to get through this movie and go, I did not hate this movie, and I hate Christmas movies. I hate them. I thought this one didn't harp too much on the capitalistic side. It didn't really harp too much on the gifts. It harped on a man wanting to be with his kid and like supporting his child and not letting the world and everything beat him down to a mindless robot. Like, have your imagination. I support you in this. Even though the Santa Claus bullshit aside, like I thought that him fighting for his child and being very much like willing to like, okay, I just won't see you for the holidays. Even though I have this newfound power that like, I still want to share this. I still want to be a family. Like those little tidbits in there, I think do make this a movie that is not a movie that missed the mark. That probably would have been a lot better if we would have been able to keep this stuff in. But I just want to put that out there that like, that's more so my point of view with it.
I'm glad you have
There you
such strong feelings about Tim Allen's The Santa Claus.
Bravo. Kyle, does it hold up?
I would say it does hold up. I would say that this is it's right on the cusp because like if it's a Christmas movie and unless it's a certain kind of Christmas movie, for me it's never going to hold up just because I don't enjoy them. I would say this just barely holds up. Just barely.
Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I do. There's, in my opinion, not a ton of meat to it, but
Not at all.
It holds up. It's not a poorly written movie. There's a couple cringy moments, but like you watch it and you don't feel like you waste your time. And like I said, the nostalgic factor still factors in for me. And I will always have a soft spot for this movie. But yeah, it holds up.
I went back and forth. I'm going to say it holds up, but barely.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's a breezy movie to watch. There's nothing too insane in it. There's a couple of good laughs, but I probably wouldn't go back and rewatch this multiple times.
I don't.
Actually, before we get out of here and before we get to the IMDb ratings, let's talk about the sequels.
Oh,
There's two
there's
sequels,
three.
right? Three sequels?
Sorry, there's two. There's Santa Claus 2 and then Santa Claus
3. Which he starred in all of them.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I don't want to get
Stand
too
aware.
far into these because that could be
I've
its
seen
own
'em.
episode. I think I saw which one had Jack Frost in it.
That was the third one.
second
Martin
one.
Short was Jack
Martin
Frost.
Short.
That was
Yeah,
the third
and then
one.
I don't remember the second one at all.
The second one, it's Teenage Charlie, same actor who plays young Charlie, and he's like rebelling against Santa Claus. I remember like the opening scene is like him in the gym like spray painting graffiti. It was like he was like he drew like a Christmas tree and drew like the red circle with a line through it over the tree.
Yeah.
He's very much like rebelling against Santa Claus and because he can't live a normal life because everyone knows his dad is, Santa Claus or whatever.
I think I did see that. I didn't remember anything about it, and the only thing I remember about the third one is Martin Short as Jack Frost.
Yeah, that one is a distant memory, but I do vividly remember the second one.
Yeah. So this movie was popular enough, and as you said earlier, like what did it make at the box office? Like $200 million.
$1 billion.
190 million worldwide.
So of course they were going to make some sequels, and it became a family favorite trilogy around the holidays.
I had one question I wanted to ask both of you, and I thought it was pertinent to this. How old were you when you stopped believing in Santa Claus?
I don't remember, but it was probably closer to like 9 or 10 when I was
Do you all remember the moment? I want to share mine, but I wasn't sure if you remember the moment or the age.
I do not.
I think like most kids, it started trickling around school, and then it just got to a point to where I was like, "This is stupid." Like your brain just cuts on.
Doesn't
one
make
day.
any sense, yeah.
I was 10 years old, And we always have Christmas at my Mimi's house in South Carolina. And I remember there would always be sleigh bells that would be heard, on Christmas Eve while we're eating our Christmas Eve dinner or watching a movie. And it sounded very real. And, young, stupid me was duped into believing it was real every single time. And then one night, I was just curious. And I decided to follow the sound or leave the room after the sound was made. And I went around to the upstairs door to the bedroom upstairs, and I opened it, and I saw a giant thing of sleigh bells laying on the stairs, and I shook it. And I walked back in the room. My parents and my Mimi were staring at me because they knew, and I knew. At that point, I was like, yeah, it wasn't Santa Claus. It was you fucking sneaking away, shaking that.
Did you break down and cry?
No, I didn't. I wasn't bothered at all. I was just like, oh, okay.
That's when you realized capitalism was real.
Yes. All the signs started just to appear and make themselves known at that point.
I think my transition wasn't that abrupt.
It was
That's
not
a
at
funny
all,
story,
no.
but it was just kind of I think most kids, it is a gradual kind of like as you get older, you're like, wait a minute.
It doesn't really make any sense.
And I remember my mother at that point, because I questioned her like in the coming days, and she goes, well, Santa Claus isn't a physical entity. He's more of a feeling or a spirit. And at that point, I was like, bullshit, Grace.
All right, Neil.
It's over.
All right.
Yeah, Neil.
All right. Well, what about the IMDb ratings? Do you know what it is, Andrew?
I think I have an idea. I think I remember looking at it, but I'm not entirely sure.
Let's double check that. Kyle, what would
I'll
you
wait until after.
Kyle, what would you give this?
What would I give it, or what I think it is?
What would you give this?
I would give this movie like a 6.2.
That's really high for Kyle in a Christmas movie.
That's gonna be pretty up there.
I was going to say 6.1.
I'm gonna go 5.4.
Okay.
I think that's
Let's look it
fair.
up. I think it's in the high sixes. Let's see here. It is, 6.6.
6.6.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really high. And to each his own.
Yeah, I mean, like this is definitely like we said, anything like above like what a 5.5 is going to be pretty watchable-ish.
The biggest thing about this movie too is it's a Christmas movie you can put on in the background. It breezes by. You don't have to pay attention to every bit of it because it is so point A to point B.
I wish there were more laughs, considering it's Tim Allen, a comedy figure, as the lead. I feel like people listening to this might think that I'm shitting on this movie in some capacity, but I'm not. I just wish it was just a little bit more. I think that's my takeaway.
Yeah.
Still love it and will always have a special place in my heart, but
Yeah.
wish I had a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
But still not a waste of time by
No.
any means.
Well, that wraps up this holiday season. We just reached into your childhood Christmas banks and pulled out the Santa Claus and found out it holds up. So I'm going to wrap it in tinsel, put it right back in your brain. Remember to always follow us on social media to find out what movie we're doing next or play a role in picking the movie that we do in the future. Kyle, do you know what we're doing next?
We're going to be doing...
He doesn't know, everybody, but stay tuned and you'll find out first. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season.